The question is, if I had to choose one machine to start an excavation business or machinery, what would be the best value of a piece of equipment that I could buy with limited money as a solo setup and make a living at? And the one piece that I think is an excellent option for people is the Kubota M59 backhoe. And it's specifically this model, okay? The M59 is not made anymore, and they stopped making them in 2012. So I'm going to go through, and I'm going to try and talk fast to list all the benefits so that you can be informed on the question about what should you go with, skid steer, an excavator. And yes, they're all great options. Like a skid steer you can make a living at, an excavator you can make a living at, and I've had skid steers and I have 2 excavators sitting right there. My favorite piece of equipment though, those 2 machines are brand new, sitting over there, is this. This is a 2008 model. It's got like near 4,000 hours. It's my favorite machine. I can do anything with this. Okay, so what can you do with it and why should you go with this? Which you can't replace a skid steer for its spreading ability. Like, they are the best. You know, they're so accurate, fast at spreading. And an excavator is the best at digging. But you're limited with an excavator. You can't, you know, haul things out of long distances. You know, if you're doing trees and stumps and stuff like that, you literally got to get the dump beside it. So, or have a second machine to be able to haul everything out. So this machine, I do so much work with this. A Kubota M59, remember that model, and I'll explain why, because they make a newer version. It's got front hydraulics. This bucket is an 84-inch bucket, so it's a little bigger than your standard skid size bucket, which is 72, I guess. I don't know. I think 72. Like a 6-foot bucket is what you get on a skid steer, and that is a 7-foot. So another benefit is this is a wheeled vehicle. It's easier on finished lawns. It's just easier driving down the road, and it's smoother than a skid steer because the skid steer is tracked. Like, I wouldn't ever get a wheeled skid steer unless you were doing street sweeping with the sweeping attachment. The track skid steer is, you know, you just a better bang for your dollar, just so you're not getting stuck. But 4-wheel drive, smoother because it's got the longer wheelbase. Even though tractors and backhoes, they don't have suspensions, it's still smoother than a skid steer. The other thing, what makes this is a great machine, is you have the reach for loading. You have this amount of playroom loading into a dump truck before you hit the front tires. So a skid steer's bucket starts like right at the beginning, the end of the machine. So you can't dump as far in the bucket or in the dump as deep. And this has a greater height, dumping height. So you can load like real dump trucks. And you don't have to build yourself a ramp. And it has great power. It is 59 horsepower. So it can compete with, you know, the large skid steers with lifting capacity. It'll probably lift, you know, 5,000 pounds. I hook my grapple right up, do a bunch of tree work, whatever, with my grapple with the front hydraulics. And then it comes with 3 remotes right here to run hydraulics. So you can operate hydraulics for the rear, because this backhoe comes right off, and you can use implements. So I have a box, or not a box, land plane over there. It can go right on the back of this. Now this is an aftermarket cab. This Kubota M59 and the newer version, the M62, have no cab. And when you take this backhoe off, this part comes off. But it comes off. And you can put tractor implements on, which is excellent. You can put skid steer attachments on. Now you can't run high flow, So that's something that you need to know. It can't run high flow. It's only doing 16 gallons per minute. But you have the ability to turn your seat around to do the backhoe. And you have creep mode. So when you're sitting in backhoe, when you're operating, there's switches down here where the remotes are that you can move forward and backwards. So if you're trenching, you just lift up your stabilizers and you move forward, drop your stabilizers, you keep digging. And what's excellent about stabilizers is they're independent. So that means you can work on a ground that you want your teeth, you might just want to be raking or just kind of scraping some of the ground, so you can angle the backhoe with the slope. The other thing you can do is, if you get stuck, you can use your stabilizers to lift up and throw stuff underneath the tires. You know, if you're in mud, you can throw logs, rocks, whatever to help you get out. That's not enough, you can push yourself with the bucket on the ground. And if that's not enough, you can actually drive the bucket into the ground and lift the whole machine up, skid yourself to the side, be able to drive out. And also, of course, you can use your bucket to try and push yourself or pull yourself just like a skid steer can. So why I don't have a skid steer, I have two backhoes. I have another backhoe over there. That's a John Deere 110. I like the mid-size backhoes. I do a lot of residential work, and I'm going across finished lawns. So I had to get rid of my skid steer because I just hated the end result that you get with a skid steer, and you're very limited. And the one thing I found quickly was, if you have a skid steer, what are they good at? Spreading. So if you're really primarily going to be dealing with spreading work, you might as well get a dump truck, because you're going to lose money or leave money on the table if you're not hauling. So if you're hauling, you're making money because now you can spread it. Well, I don't want a dump truck. I don't want the expensive dump truck. I don't want the maintenance and everything. So I use dump trailers. So here's my two dump trailers. And then the other benefit is a solo setup with a Kubota M59. And I'm kind of jumping around here, but this Kubota M59 will fit right in the back of this 16-foot dump trailer. So this is a 14K GVWR. It'll go right in the back of it. You rest the bucket up here. You can, because that's 84 inches, and this is probably like 83 wide. So it's just an inch short where the bucket can't sit in the bed. Or like you can't just take that bucket off, put it on the bottom, take it right off the machine, put the arms over. So you just strap it to the machine and it just sits up top there. But the other benefit is the Kubota M59, when you load up, the bucket is probably right here. Well, you can open and close the doors without having to raise the boom and lower the boom to get the doors closed. But if you had an M62, which is the new version, this is 12 feet. It's a 12-foot digger. Comes with, and you get a thumb to put on the back so you can, pick stuff up. So the M62 is 14 feet. And what is not cool with the 62 is, yeah, it's nice to be able to dig 14 feet. But what you're not told, and you don't know until you're into it, is when you have a 14-foot with a 2-foot bucket or a 3-foot bucket on, and you extend it way out and you start to rip into the ground, guess what's going to happen? The front end comes up. This is a sweet balance point where it doesn't. You can reach it right out and you can start digging and trenching or whatever, and it won't lift it up. Yes, I know you can go put a load of dirt in the bucket and go and start digging, but well, that's not even remotely practical in most jobs. Who's got a bank of dirt that you can just go and scoop into? So it's not even a possibility. So that's why the M62 is not the option to start out with, and the 59 is. And the 62's 14-foot backhoe rests lower and below those doors. So now every time you go to load, you got to remember to put the bucket out, get off the machine, close the doors, get back in the machine, and lower down your bucket. Then when you want to unload, you got to start the machine up, raise the bucket, open the doors. Just an extra step. Is it the end of the world? No. But the 59 is just a little more efficient. Same amount of power. We're talking like splitting hairs. The 62 is like probably 62 horsepower. This is pretty much 60. And it digs probably at a 4-ton level of bucket breakout force. So it's great. It'll dig stumps. You can run forks. You can turn around and lift the stump up with your forks. Throw on your grapple all the roots. Whatever, you can just use the grapple and the backhoe. That's mainly what I use. You can spread, you can do spreading jobs. I do driveways. I spread all kinds of stuff. I load myself up, you know, with dirt in my dumps with the bucket. Then I use this for trenching. I use that for digging holes. I even use this for driveways. So there's some driveways that they're so bold like this. I'll just park right in the middle of the driveway, take my boom over, pull all the material into the center of the road on both sides, and start building a crown up. And I can angle myself with the stabilizers. So if I want to dig in the ground with a little slope like this and start putting material, I can. Because you can do that. And with a solo setup, with this machine weighing 8,500 pounds on paper, and then with the cab, my cab here is probably about 9,000 in total. It'll go right in the back of this 16-foot tandem dump trailer, and you can pull it with a 2500. So that is that's a Chev 2500 diesel. And if you're wanting to start your own machinery business, you're going to need a diesel truck. A 2500 will get you so far. I had to go and get a 450, an F450, just because 2500 is not enough. So your difference is basically your gearing, and you're going to want the higher gearing just for the pulling capacity. But you can get by with a 2500. You buy this secondhand, and you can buy a secondhand dump trailer, and there you go. That's an excellent business. You will do all kinds of work. You can do tree work, for example. Say we want to cut down this tree right here. I just back the backhoe up. Well, the backhoe will just rip that and break all that up. I have a thumb, so I just take the tree and I just stack it all nice and neat right here. And then I would just turn around with my grapple, come in, grapple it, and now I can drive it wherever, and I can go and load it in the dump. And also, what makes this better than a skid steer, for your first machine as your best value. I'm not saying this is better than a skid steer, but you get more options with this. You can do snow, and yes, you can do snow with a skid steer, but I can drive all through the city with this in the wintertime. You can with a skid steer. I wouldn't, but you can with this. You can drive this everywhere, so you can put a blower on the back, you can use your bucket, and with the aftermarket cab you have heat. So I don't have AC, but I do have heat. And another thing what I like about the other backhoe, it's a little smaller in power and stuff like that. I use it for a forklift around here. It's got no cab. I love the no cab. It's not pleasant in the winter, but having no cab is it's some nice to be able to have that visibility and that be able to see. We got working lights in the back for at night. We got hazard lights so you can drive down the road. This has got, so the Kubota M59 is hydrostat, so you can just put it in high gear there. You see it's on H, and then you use this for, so that's for like high speed, and then you're just about to sink your bucket into a load of dirt, click it down into turtle mode, which gives you extra power. And if you really need power, then you just put it in medium, and then you got all kinds of power. And if you need even more power, you put it in low, and you'll just be crawling. But then you can take it out of hydrostat mode and just put the revs up to wherever you'd like, and then you can operate without hydrostat mode too. You have an auto leveling switch. I've never used it. I don't even know what that yellow thing is. I have no idea if that's to engage. Oh, maybe that's to engage the PTO. If you put a blower on it, it would start spinning. But I don't know. I don't use this machine with implements. Even though you can take the backhoe off, I take the backhoe off that guy and I'll run my land plane and whatever. So my whole thing is, yes, an excavator is an excellent option. Well, it's an amazing option having an excavator. And a skid steer is great too. Skid steer attachments, they are expensive, and skid steers are hard on fuel. You're kind of running them, you know, you're running them wide open, pretty much. These are way easier on fuel. The backhoes, way easier on fuel. Like, just night and day. So much better on fuel. And then you can change buckets if you want. You know, how much, whatever you want to spend, you can put a quick coupler on that. Or just pound the pins out and change the buckets. If you want a, that's a 2-foot bucket. Or maybe you want a trencher. Maybe you want a smooth tooth ditching bucket. You have that option with this machine. And the benefit is it'll just go right in that. You'll have a dump truck right on site. And I don't have a dump truck like I explained earlier, because I mean, this is way cooler. Driving around in a 450 and a, you know, fully loaded 2 trucks. But I got to carry all my fuel. I got to carry my shovel, my rake, all my straps, my chainsaws, hand tamper, all the blocks of wood that I put underneath the trailer jacks, and I got all my tools. I bring like drills, my grease gun, extra grease, oil chains, so, you know, my toolbox, wrenches. And where are you going to put that? In a dump truck? Yeah, you're right. Front seat. It's just not cool. So now if my wife calls, say, oh, can you go pick up the kids? Yeah, no problem. I'll just throw some of the shit in the back of the bed of the truck, put the seat down. I can pick my kids up. I can go to the grocery store. And having a dump truck, I think it's just extra insurance. You need a broker to buy a truck. You need to pay commercial axle registration. It's just more. It's just everybody wants more from you because you're commercial. Well, I'm not commercial. I run a dump trailer. This is a dump trailer, and I used to pull this with my 2500, no problem. You don't want to load it up to its full capacity with a 2500. It's hard on it. So I had that truck chipped or tuned or whatever, so I have a little extra pulling power on it, and that's deleted and tuned. So it's got good amount of power. So it'll pull full load of dirt in this, and this will lift. It's only rated for about 17,000 pounds, but man, I've had to have 25,000 pounds in it, just doing dirt around my own house and stuff like that, and it's lifted it. Didn't like it, but it did it. But dump trailers, they're long, they're hard to get into some places for doing work, but they're definitely cheaper. This was in Canadian, I think it was 18, and this was 30. But so much easier dealing with this than a dump truck. I can carry everything in my pickups, and I'm driving in luxury, and I'm making a living. So this whole video is about what is the best value that you can get of your money when you want to buy your first machine. I'm making that, or saying that the Kubota M59 is a great option, and it's not going to disappoint you. You will be able to do a lot of work with this machine. And I'm just trying to think of any other benefits. Okay, skid steers are really tight in the cab. Visibility's really horrible. This got all kinds of room in it. You can hang a hard hat up. I mean, you can put your chainsaw here and just put your feet over it, drive into the woods. You can put your gas, you know, and your bar, your chain oil in here. You can put a chainsaw in there, and you can drive into the woods. The other thing, doing trees, at the end of my job, I'd have a tree that's, you know, it's disintegrated into a million pieces, so I'll rake it. Well, how do you get all these tiny little twigs from a backyard all the way out to the road to be able to load? Well, you can't use a grapple because the tines are just way too far spaced apart. So I just put this backhoe down on the ground, and I just basically just pick everything up by hand after raking it, throw it in the backhoe, and then I just drive all the way out, put my stabilizers down, dump it right in the back. Done. So easy. And another benefit I just thought of, when you're on a tree job, okay, and you have your grapple and you're loading up all the trees, branches, stumps, 100% you're going to have tree branches sticking out everywhere. And you got to deal with that. You got to get it down in. And if you don't, you're not maximizing your carrying capacity for that load. Like, if the most you can get in there, well, you can take the backhoe and you can spread it all around so you can really maximize that load for that trip, trying to save you trips. So if you have shit sticking out, you just take the backhoe, push yourself way up, beat everything down, spread it all out, pack it down. That's a backhoe. You can do that. Skid steer, you can't. You literally just got to try and reach up, drop it in, and hope for the best. And it's just going to create so many void spaces, and you're not going to get the best bang for your dollar on your loads that you have to haul out of someone's yard. And that's why the backhoe just is so much better than a skid steer. Unless you're in the business, then all you want to do is driveways and topsoil, and you want to buy a $30,000 Canadian power rake, well, then a skid steer is what you want. It'll still go in a dump trailer. Maybe not the Minotaur, but the skid steer is something I think that if you want for work, you're kind of getting into the game of topsoiling, and you're going to want a dump truck because now you're hauling in probably 50 loads of topsoil or 200 loads of shale, and you're spreading all that around. I think that's pretty much all I can think of right now. All right, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching.